responsible for giving her the good life. My mother kept stoking the fire to keep the house nice and warm. Suddenly, I smelled something strange, and then I noticed it. Smoke pouring in through the seams of the ceiling. The smoke began to fill the room so quickly that we could barely see. Groping our way to the front door, we all ran out into the front yard. By the time we made our way outside, the whole roof was engulfed in flames, and it was spreading quickly. I ran to the neighbors to call the fire department, while I watched my mother run back into the house. My mother then ran out of the house carrying a small metal box full of important documents. She dropped the case on the lawn and, in a crazed state, ran back into the house. I knew what she was after. My father had died when I was young, and I was certain that she was not going to let his pictures and letters go up in flames. They were the only things that she had to remember him by. Still, I screamed at her, "Mom, no!" I was about to run after her when I felt a large hand hold me back. It was a fireman. I hadn't even noticed that the street had already filled with fire trucks. I was trying to free myself from his grasp, yelling, "You don't understand! My mother's in there!" He held on to me while other firefighters ran into the house. He knew that I wasn't acting very logically, and that if he were to let go, I'd run. He was right. "It's all right, they'll get her," he said. He wrapped a blanket around me and sat me down in our car. Soon after that, a fireman emerged from our house with my mom in tow. He quickly took her over to the truck and put an oxygen mask on her. I ran over and hugged her. All those times I ever argued with her and hated her vanished at the thought of losing her. "She's going to be okay," said the fireman. "She just inhaled a little smoke." And then he ran back to fight the fire, while my mother and I sat there dazed. I remember watching my house burn down and thinking that there was nothing I could do about it. 5 hours later, the fire was finally out. Our house was almost completely burnt down. But then it struck me. I hadn't seen my cat. Where was my cat? Much to my horror, I realized that she was nowhere to be found. Then all at once it hit me. The new school, the fire, my cat. I broke down in tears and cried and cried. I was suffering loss, big time. The firemen wouldn't let us go back into the house that night. It was still too dangerous, dead or alive. I couldn't imagine leaving without knowing about my cat. Regardless, I had to go. We piled into the car with just the clothes on our backs and a few of the firemen's blankets, and made our way to my grandparents' house to spend the night. The next day, Monday, I went to school. When the fire broke out, I was still wearing the dress I had worn to church that morning, but I had no shoes. I had kicked them off when I was doing my homework. They became yet another casualty of the fire. So I had to borrow some tennis shoes from my aunt. Why couldn't I just stay home from school? My mother wouldn't hear of it. But I was totally embarrassed by everything. The clothes I was wearing looked weird. I had no books or homework, and my backpack was gone. I had my life in that backpack. The more I tried to fit in, the worse it got. Was I destined to be an outcast and a geek all my life? That's what it felt like. I didn't want to grow up, change, or have to handle life if it was going to be this way. I just wanted to curl up and die. I walked around school like a zombie. Everything felt surreal, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen. All the security I had known from my old school, my friends, my house, and my cat had all been ripped away. When I walked through what used to be my house after school that day, I was shocked to see how much damage there was. Whatever hadn't burned was destroyed by the water and chemicals they had used to put out the fire. The only material things not destroyed were the photo albums, documents, and some other personal items that my mother had managed to heroically rescue. But my cat was gone, and my heart ached for her. There was no time to grieve. My mother rushed me out of the house. We would have to find a place to live, and I would have to go buy some clothes for school. We had to borrow money from my grandparents because there were no credit cards, cash, or even any identification to be able to withdraw money from the bank. Everything had gone up in smoke. That week, the rubble that used to be our house was being cleared off the lot. Even though we had rented an apartment nearby, I would go over to watch them clear away debris, hoping that my cat was somewhere to be found. She was gone. I kept thinking about her as that vulnerable little kitten. In the early morning, when I would disturb her and get out of bed, she would tag along after me, climb up my robe, and crawl into my pocket to fall asleep. I was missing her terribly.
Am I audible, dear students?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is the
Yes,
story,
sir.
reflecting the challenge of being a teenager. And there, what did you understand from this video that we have just watched? Could you understand some part that it is about a boy who was going to school every day, but on a holiday, on Sunday, it happened that his own house was on fire, and then how they themselves tried to rescue out of it, how mother entered, how the firemen helped. Could you notice it in it? And finally, he remembers that the cat was there left, and he wanted to rescue it, but he couldn't. And the problems he faced later, that he had no house, no money, even no identification proof that he was the only one and could get some money from the bank. it also did not happen, and they are facing lots of problems due to this. Are you getting there, students? What is it about? And why the house is not a home called? Because it was a home till when they were living there well. But when it caught fire and was on fire, it remained only a house. And so it is said that a house is not a home. And also another reason that you can see that he loved the cat very much. And that cat was not found by him at all. And even if he went to school but could not concentrate on studies, and is just missing all about his past and also some memories he had about the cat, right? So it was just a summary, dear students, and I would like here to watch, you know, actually how it is given here. Let's see. Dear students, some children have tried to, enact this story as it is given there. So please watch it and try to understand it better. So children are playing a role here in this.
Good morning, everyone. Today, I and my friends are going to present a skit on the lesson A House is Not a Home. The characters are as follows: Ayushi as child, Himavi as mother, Shweta as fireman, Anchal as auntie, Garima and Sakshi as friends, Anusha, Achal, Shweta, and Sakshi as narrator.
My first year of high school felt awkward. After leaving the junior high at the head of my class with all the seniority the upper grade levels could afford me, it felt strange starting over as a freshman. The school was twice as big as my old school. And to make matters worse, my closest friends were sent to a different high school. I felt very isolated. I missed my old teachers so much that I would go back and visit them. They would encourage me to get involved in school activities so that I could meet new people. They told me that in time I would adjust and probably end up loving my new school more than I had my old one. They made me promise that when that happened, I would still come by and visit them from time to time.
One Sunday afternoon, after he had started high school, he was sitting at his home at the dining table doing his homework. It was a cold and windy fall day, and they had a fire going in their fireplace. As usual, his red tubby cat was lying on the top of all his papers. The cat was never far from him. He had rescued her when she was a kitten, and somehow she knew that he was the one responsible for giving her the good life. His mother kept stoking the fire to keep the house nice and warm. Suddenly, he smelled something strange, and then he noticed smoke pouring through the ceilings. The smoke began to fill the room so quickly that they could barely see. Groping their way to the front door, They both ran into the front yard. By the time they made their way outside, the whole roof spreading quickly.
Let us go to the neighbor's house to call the fire department.
He ran to his neighbors to call the fire department. While he watched his mother run back into the house.
His mother then ran out of the house carrying a small metal box full of important documents.
She dropped.
Hello, dear students. Am I audible?
Sir, it's audible. Buffering.
Isn't the video?
Video is breaking.
Oh, I see. Can you please turn on your caption so that you can get what is said there at least?
Sir, the cameras are already on.
Captions are on. Could you see what's there? At least video is
No, sir.
video is buffering or taking a pause in between or voice is breaking. What's the problem?
Taking a pause in between.
Okay. I'm well audible to you, everyone.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So
Now
you're
I'm going
presenting
to.
it. That's why it's it means buffering.
Pardon? Presentation is only a little blurred. Okay. And now I'm going to change the quality and I'm going to mute myself. And also my video will be turned on so that the network will be utilized, to synchronize the screen rather than mine or me here. Now going to play it again from the beginning.
Good morning, everyone. Today, I and my friends are going to present a skit on the lesson A House is Not a Home. The characters are as follows: Ayushi as child, Himavi as mother, Shweta as fireman, Anchal as auntie, Garima and Sakshi as friends, Anusha, Anchal, Shweta, and Sakshi as narrator.
My first year of high school felt awkward. After leaving the junior high at the head of my class with all the seniority the upper grade levels could
Yes, sir.
afford me. It felt strange starting over as a freshman. The school was twice as big as my old school. And to make matters worse, my closest friends were sent to a different high school. I felt very isolated. I missed my old teachers so much that I would go back and visit them. They would encourage me to get involved in school activities so that I could meet new people. They told me that in time I would adjust and probably end up loving my new school more than I had my old one. They made me promise that when that happened, I would still come by and visit them from time to time.
One Sunday afternoon, after he had started high school, he was sitting at his home at the dining table doing his homework. It was a cold and windy fall day, and they had a fire going in their fireplace. As usual, his red tubby cat was lying on the top of all his papers. The cat was never far from him. He had rescued her when she was a kitten, and somehow she knew that he was the one responsible for giving her the good life. His mother kept stoking the fire to keep the house nice and warm. Suddenly, he smelled something strange, and then he noticed smoke pouring through the ceilings. The smoke began to rise and rise, grouping their way to the front door. They both ran into the front yard. By the time they made their way outside, the whole roof was engulfed in flames and it was spreading quickly.
Let's go to the neighbor's house to call the.
He ran to his neighbors to call the fire department. While he watched his mother run back into the house,
His mother then ran out of the house carrying a small metal box full of important documents.
she dropped the keys on the lawn and ran back into the house.
He knew what she was after. His father had died when he was young, and he was certain that she was not going to let his pictures and letters go up into flames. They were the only things that she had to remember him by. Still, he screamed at her.
Mom, no! He was about to run after her, but he felt a large hand hold him back. It was a fireman. You don't understand, my mother's in there. Let me go, please. It's dangerous. Don't go. They will get her. The fireman wrapped a blanket around him and took him to a safe place. The fireman held on to him while other firefighters ran into the house. Soon after that, a fireman emerged from their house with his mom in tow. He quickly took her over and put an oxygen mask on her. The child ran over and hugged his mother. All those times he ever argued with her and hated her vanished at the thought of losing her.
Don't worry, dear child. She is going to be okay. She inhaled just a little smoke.
And then the fireman ran back to fight the fire. He remembered watching his house burn down and thinking that there was nothing he could do about it. 5 hours later, the fire was finally out. Their house was almost completely burned down. Where is my cat? Where is she? But he realized that she was nowhere to be found. He was totally embarrassed, and then suddenly thought came to him that the new school, the fire, my cat. Why God has given such a bad condition to such an innocent child? Tears rolled down into his eyes. He broke down in tears and cried and cried. The fireman wouldn't let them go back into the house. It was still too dangerous. Dead or alive, he couldn't imagine living without knowing about his cat.
They piled into the car with just the clothes on their backs and a few of fireman's blanket and made their way to the grandparents' house to spend the night. The next day, Monday, he went to school. When the fire broke out, he was still wearing the dress he had worn to church that morning, but he had no shoes. He had kicked them off when he was doing his homework. They became yet another casualty of the fire, so he had to borrow some tennis shoes from his aunt. Why I couldn't stay at home instead of going to school? I have no books, no backpack, and I'm looking weird in these clothes. Mom, can't I stay at home? His mother wouldn't hear of it, but he was totally embarrassed by everything. He had his life in that backpack. The more he tried to fit in, the worse it got. He didn't want to grow up or change. He just wanted to curl up and die. He walked around the school like a zombie. Everything felt embarrassing, and he was not sure that what was going to happen. All he had known from his old school, his friends, his house, and his cat had all been wiped away.
When he walked through his old house that was burned due to fire, he was shocked to see how much damage there was. Whatever hadn't burned was destroyed by the water and chemical they had used to put out the fire. Only material things not destroyed were the photo albums, documents, and some other personal item that his mother had managed to rescue bravely. But his cat was gone, and his heart ached for her.
My dear boy, you came? Why are you sad? There's no time to feel sad. We need to rush and find a new house to live in. But Mom, what about our clothes? We'll go and buy your clothes also. Okay, Mom, let's go.
They had to borrow money from his grandparents because there were no credit card, cash, or even any identification to able to withdraw money from the bank. Everything had gone up in the smoke. That week, the rubble that used to be their house was being cleared off, even though they had rented an apartment nearby. He would go over to watch them clearing away the scrap, hoping that his cat was somewhere to be found.
But she was gone. Still, he kept thinking about the cat.
Early morning, when he would disturb her and get out of the bed, she would tag along after him, climb up his robe, and crawl into his pocket to fall asleep. He was missing her terribly.
It always seems that bad news spreads quickly, and in his case, it was same. Everyone in the high school, including the teachers, was aware of his loss. He was embarrassed as if somehow he was responsible. When he was getting ready for the gym class at his locker, people were milling around him, asking him to hurry up. Hurry up! We are getting late for the gym. Let's go. Come on. Okay, let's go. Come fast. He thought it strange. It almost seemed that they were trying to push him into the gym. He didn't know why they all were pushing him, but as soon as he entered the gym, he was shocked to see that there was a big table set up with all kind of stuff on it. They had taken up a collection and bought him school supplies, notebooks, and all kind of different clothes like jeans, tops. It was like Christmas. He was overcome by emotion. People who had never spoken to him before were coming up to him to introduce themselves. He made friends that day, and he finally breathed a sigh of relief and thought for the first time that things were going to be okay.
A month later, he was at his house watching the rebuilding of the house. But this time he was not alone. He was with two of his new friends from school. It took a fire for him to stop focusing on his feelings of insecurity and open up to all the wonderful people around him. At that time, he was sitting there watching his house being rebuilt. There, he realized that his life was doing the same thing. While they sat there planning his new bedroom, he heard someone walk up to him from behind. When he turned around to see who it was, he couldn't believe his eyes. A woman was standing there holding his cat. He leapt up and grabbed her out of the woman's arm.
My cat!
Does this belong to you?
Yes, it is my cat.
The number in her collar is not working. I tried to call this number several times, but no one picked up.
Yes, that is because our phones have been destroyed and disconnected due to the fire. But whatever, thank you very much for giving my cat back.
He held her close to him and she purred happily. His friends were hugging him, hugging the cat, and jumping around. That wonderful woman took her in and worked hard to find out whose cat it was. Somehow she knew that cat was loved and missed. As they walked there, his friends and his cat curled up in his lap. All the overwhelming feelings of loss and tragedy seemed to diminish.
Did you like the story, dear students? Could you understand it well?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it was very well done by the students, na? That they have played very good roles of the characters from the story: a child, mother, a fireman, the neighbors, grandmother, the relatives, and of course, friends. So, it happens with, it may happen with anybody that we face a lot of problems, due to natural calamity. Like we studied about Prashant, how he came over the calamity that his family was, then he worked hard for other people also. In Esama, we studied that also. Then we know this is now COVID-19 crisis. People help many others, those who are helpless, homeless, and wanted to go back to their places. They were helped by the local people, local authorities. And when we are all alone, lonely, we always think of that only, the grief that we have. But when you have good friends, they help you, and we easily forget the grief that we have and get well mixed up with the friends. And how his friends, not even the friends, but those who were not knowing him, but only came to know that his house was on fire, finally helped him, giving him all the necessities. Right, dear students? So this is something that we should also learn, helping each other, sharing with each other, so that it helps us feel relaxed out of the frustration or the despair, depression we are in. Like in the previous lesson only, you were asked that what you do or how you feel when you are depressed and what do you do to come over it. So here, the friends helped him a lot because he had only the idea about his old school, his own house and the cat. Apart from that, he was not well mixed up with the other children. But after this calamity, when his own house was on fire, later he realized because he wanted to live no more. He wanted to die, like in the last lesson, so you saw that how a girl, Johnsy, wanted to die, losing her hope to live. But her friends finally, and there also her friend Sue helped her regain her sense of living again in this life. Understood, dear students? Any more query, any more doubt about this?
No,
House
sir.
is not home. And I'm sure you must have enjoyed the story very, very well as it was very illustrated and the characters played very important and good role in this. Can we then move next to the question answer session?
Yes, sir.
So you can also see in your textbook how the firemen or the persons that are trying to extinguish the fire. You know that there are various ways of extinguishing the fire, right? The fire brigade. But which one do you think is the most usable? Can we, throw water or sprinkle water if there is an electricity fire? I think there was a lesson in class 7 only, if you remember, about the fire. Do you remember?
Yes, sir.
Second last or something, there were various methods, several types of fires and how to extinguish was well elaborated. You please try to get your class 7 textbook and you will find a complete lesson all about fire only.
Yes, sir. Fire, friend or foe.
But here an actual incident given and we have witnessed it now happening and how the people helped this boy. And finally he is very happy to get everything back and especially his own cat. Right? You can see the picture given on page number 53. And the narrator and Gold told us about this incident very well. The glossary is there, please note down those words. And here we are now going to discuss the question and their answers. The first question: what does the author notice on Sunday afternoon? What is his mother's reaction? What does she do? You can answer. Anybody? Come on. What did he notice? No idea? Smoke covering their, the ceiling and everywhere in his house. So what does the author notice one Sunday afternoon? That there was smoke everywhere in his house. Then another part of the question is his mother's reaction. What does she do? Can anyone tell? We have seen in the video. What is the mother doing? Nobody? Be responsive, dear students. Respond quickly. Don't just keep quiet. Say something if you know, if you don't know, so that we can proceed.
So she ran back into the house.
Firstly, she came to him. They both went out, if you remember. Then she told him to ask the neighbors to call the fire brigade. And then when she saw that her son was not looking at her, she immediately went in again and brought those important documents out and threw them on a lawn. And again, she went in, and then he noticed that she had gone in. You know why she had gone again in home back, even if there was a fire? Can anyone tell? But her son could immediately understood that why she had gone. Can you tell? because her husband, means this narrator's father, was no more. And he knew that at any cost, she may not leave those memories, the letters or the photographs of his father burning on fire. And so she had gone because she was also, of course, loving her husband very much. Right? And those were the only memories that were left with him, left with them, and at any cost did not want them burning in the fire. Right? Understood, dear students? Do you want me to tell the summary again of the story? Okay, I'm telling so that you can answer the questions immediately. Don't take much time. This story revolves around Van, the main character, the boy. He was sad as he got into a new high school. He did not have his old friends and was a junior there. He missed the old school and would visit it often. He had enjoyed being a senior there. To add to his miseries, one Sunday afternoon, his house caught fire. Other than a few papers and photos of his father that were retrieved by his mother, they lost everything. And did not even have a pair of shoes. His pet cat was also missing. Then got depressed and did not want to attend school. He realized that he could not soak up in his sadness as they had to rebuild their life. They needed a new house, clothes, books, etc. They did not have any cash, credit cards, or identity proofs and had to borrow money from his grandparents. One day at school, Dhan was astonished to see a table full of things, books, stationery items, clothes, etc., which had been collected by his classmates. They were helping Dhan. Dhan was overwhelmed and made friends. He came out of the depression and realized that life was beautiful. Dhan saw his house being rebuilt and felt the same was happening with his life too. A kind woman returned his cat which had run away on being scared of the fire. Dhan became full of life when he realized that life was not about material possessions but all about love, affection, and being with one's loved one. That was the story. And the first question was, what does the author notice one Sunday afternoon? What is his mother's reaction? What does she do? I think, dear students, you have written these answers in your notebook or not. Okay, I'm going to share today and you please write them in your notebook. And answer of the question is, while he was doing his homework, Dhan saw smoke coming in to the cellar. The room was full of smoke in a few seconds. They rushed out of the house and saw that the roof was on fire. Dhan's mother ran inside and rescued some documents. She went again to get his father's photographs and letters, which were his only memories with them. Understood, dear students? You got it? Yes, question number 1. Now this is question number 2. You can see, why does he break down in tears after the fire? Why does he break down in tears after the fire? You have watched in the video. Can you answer? Because everything was happening against him. He changed the school, there were new friends, he could not, adapt the atmosphere there. And in addition to that, there was a fire. Again, he was not getting his cat back and he had nothing left with him, neither any house, nor clothes, nor books, nothing. And so, dear students, finally he had broken down in tears after the fire. So I'll read the answer again. Dhan felt that everything was going the wrong way. He was in a new school, did not have his friends, nor the fire snatched all his possessions, namely his house. Now the fire had also snatched all his possessions, especially his house, clothes, books, and even his favorite cat. Anybody want to add something to this answer? Or can we discuss the next question, number 3? Okay. Number 3. Why is the author deeply embarrassed the next day in school? Which word showed his fear and insecurity? The very next day when he had gone with the same clothes that he had put on while going into the church on Sunday morning, and he had nothing with him, not shoes, not any books, not notebooks, nothing he had. And that was the reason that he felt deeply embarrassed that day on Monday when he went to school. Which word showed his fear and insecurity, that he was very afraid and was feeling very insecure? Which are the words? Can you tell? Finally, he said that I want to curl up and die. Right? So these are the words. I'll repeat answer of this question. The author was embarrassed because he did not have his shoes, his clothes were unusual, he did not have his school bag and books. The words showing his fear and insecurity are, I was totally embarrassed by everything. The clothes I was wearing looked weird. I had no books nor any homework he had done, and even his backpack was gone. And he says that he had his life in the backpack. The more he tried to fit in, the worse it got. Was it destined to be an outcast and a geek of all his life? These are the words he had said, and especially we can say that he said finally, "I just wanted to curl up and die." It shows that he was very much afraid and was feeling very much insecure. Then the next question, number 4, is, can you see here, page number 54? Yes, dear students?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Okay. The cat and the author are very fond of each other. How has this been shown in the story? Where was the cat after the fire? Who brings it back and how? Can anyone answer? I repeat the question. The cat and the author are very fond of each other. How has this been shown in the story? And where was the cat after the fire? Who brings it back and how? That is the question. Nighttime, the cat and its master, Zan, were attached to each other. Every morning, if you remember, it was shown that Zan would disturb the cat and wake it. The cat would follow him, climb up his rope, sit in his pocket, and sleep there. The cat would remain with Zan all the time, but while he studied, it would hit its tail on his pen for entertainment. Then another part of the question, how has this been shown? I told you. Where was the cat after the fire? Out of fear
it
for
had
the
ran
fire.
away.
Yes, very good. The cat had run away from there. And who brings it back and how? A woman brings it back, holding it in her hand, and was in search of the owner of the cat, even if there was a number, but he could not get connected since the telephone and all other things were destroyed due to fire at his home. And finally, she handed it over to him, and I was very happy to see the cat back. Right? Vaishnavi? Akansha?
Yes, sir.
Getting the answers?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sad story, but being sensitive, we can understand it well and learn some lessons also. This is now question number 5. You can see what actions of these schoolmates change the author's understanding of life and people and comfort him emotionally. How does his loneliness vanish and how does he start participating in life? That is the question. After he joined that school, there were no friends, he was all alone, and there, in addition to that, the house was on fire, and that loneliness was making him much and more desperate and disappointed about the life. So what actions of the schoolmates changed the author's understanding? That Dan's classmates were sympathetic and understood his situation. They arranged all necessities for him like clothes, books, stationery items, and etc. And they also invited him over to their place. All this comforted Han, and he finally came out of the negativity and made new friends. And at last, he realized that he was getting a new life as his house was getting rebuilt. And this is the way we can say that his loneliness vanished and he started participating in life because of the help that was provided by his classmates. And question number 6 here is, what is the meaning of my cat was back and so was I? This is a sentence told by Jan. My cat was back and so was I. Has the author gone anywhere? Why does he say that he is also back? I think it's very easy to understand. Literally, if we say he had not gone anywhere, but he means to say he was very much missing that cat and wanted the cat back at any cost, but he could not find. When he was back, he finds his life is also back because he was loving that cat very much. So I repeat, my cat was back and so I was. Means that just like Jan got his cat back, similarly he also got a new life. He came out of the gloom that had surrounded him. No, he had not gone anywhere, if you say another part of answer, and this is that he was back, which implies that he got a new life, which was full of affection and warmth and love, especially. Firstly, he was disappointed because he was losing everything. Firstly, the old school, then the house and the things and all, and even the cat. But when his friends started helping him, he started regaining those things very well and realized later that no, life is full of ups and downs, and it was the downtime when he was disappointed. But even when the cat was brought back, he was very happy to see it back, and so he exclaimed that my cat was back, and so was I. Now the last question here, dear students, that from talk about it. Have any of your classmates or schoolmates had an experience like the one described in the story, where they needed help? Describe how they were helped. So I think you can do it your own. Am I right, dear students? Anybody likes to share any of such experiences that any of your friends had ever? Yes, dear students, would you like to share? Okay, then if you don't want, you please write it, the answer of that question. Even if there is no experience, you can just imagine and write something that somebody is in great need and you have help. And you know, of course, that a friend in need is a friend indeed. Right, dear students? So this is 11:15
Yes.
and I will not take much of your time. That's it for today. Thank you so much, dear students. Have a great day ahead. Bye. Take care, dear students.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you, sir.